Since 2022, over 150 million poultry chickens have been killed. And the reason? Bird flu. And the only way to get rid of bird flu is to kill or cull the entire flock. And so that has sent egg prices, especially, through the roof, even chicken prices as well. But in some places around the country right now, egg prices are going as high as $11 or $12 for a high quality dozen of eggs, like in New York, for example. And that has caused a lot of people to panic and think, well, eggs are really one of the most staple foods that we have. I mean, along with maybe bread and milk, you have eggs. And so I want to talk today about maybe an alternative. And maybe you're at this point, you're thinking, yeah, I can't keep paying $10 for a dozen eggs. Well, maybe it's time to really consider having a flock of your own. I believe that chickens are one of the easiest animals to raise. They really just kind of take care of themselves. You do have to do a few things, and I want to talk about that briefly here today. But I want to give you some reasons why, if you're thinking about this, why chickens might be a great addition to your property. But before we talk about the reasons for having chickens, I think there's a few things you need to consider beforehand. Number one, if you're going to get chickens, whether that's from a poultry farm or a neighbor who has a rooster who can fertilize the eggs, or just from like Tractor Supply or something like that, you need to make sure that you have a place for them. As young chicks, they need to be in I typically found a large Rubbermaid bin with like a wire meshing over the top works best with a heat lamp in there. But they need to have obviously food and water. So you need to have a place for them as they grow up. They're going to grow out of that Rubbermaid bin, and you need to have a place for them. Now, a lot of people will just have them just graze and just walk around your property. That's fine if you don't live close to neighbors. You don't want them wandering into the neighbor's yard, especially if you're thinking about predators out there, whether they're aerial predators, hawks, eagles, something like that, or fox or coyotes or dogs. Everybody loves eating chickens. So you need to protect them as well. So a place to put them is one thing. A place to protect them is another. We use what's called a chickshaw. I'll drop a link for that down below. We use a chickshaw, so we just rotate them and move them around our property. We have an electric netting from Premier One that we put around them when we move them around. So those are some options to think about, but that's what you got to think about ahead of time before you just bring them home. My mistake, I just got 10 chickens because they were cute at the store. I brought them home, and my kids were like, hey, that's awesome, but now what? So don't do what I did. Go ahead and prepare beforehand if you're thinking about getting chickens. So let's get into some of the top reasons why I think you should consider having chickens. So number one is the most obvious. It's eggs. Now, some people have wondered about this. You don't need a rooster. You just need hens. Now, if you want to fertilize those eggs and maybe have hatch more chickens, then you need to have a rooster. But you don't have to have a rooster to have eggs. The hens themselves, they will just lay the eggs for you. So obviously, eggs is the biggest benefit, I think, with having chickens. And you need to be able to go out there, have a timetable and a schedule where you can go out and collect the eggs every day, especially in the summertime when it's warmer and lighter outside. They typically lay more eggs in the warmer and lighter days of the year than the colder winter months. But you need to be able to have a schedule to take care of them. That's collecting the eggs, that's feeding and watering them if they're not, roaming around and grazing. So, but eggs certainly is going to make the top of the list here today. So I think a second reason to have chickens is that they eat the bugs, the insects, the ticks. So if you've got a tick problem, get a bunch of chickens. They will take care of a lot of your ticks. So that's a really nice thing because we have some infected ticks around our parts, and there's people that get that Lyme disease, and it's caused tons of problems for them. And so having chickens is a great way to get rid of some of those insects. I think a third reason to have chickens is fertilizer. They provide a natural, obviously, fertilizer. And so what we like to do is we actually put our chickens in our garden area during the winter months, and they're just aerating, they're scratching everything up, they're fertilizing, and then about the beginning part, mid-February, we take them out of there and we let that cool. It's a hot manure, so we let that cool, and so it's ready for spring planting. But if you want to have some good manure, some good fertilizer, it's a great way to go to have some chickens. So I think a fourth reason to have chickens is meat. Now, you may not want to do this, and I understand that. But if you do want some chicken meat, well, I'd highly suggest getting a rooster. So the rooster can fertilize the eggs, they can hatch, they can grow up, and then you can cull those for dinner. I wouldn't name them. We've done that before. It's a sad day when you name a chicken and then you got to eat it. So Wouldn't do that. But if you want to have high quality meat, you know what they're being fed. You're not injecting them with hormones and all kinds of, you're not eating GMO stuff. So it's high quality meat and you can provide it yourself. And that's really kind of leads to that more self-sufficient lifestyle. And there's something really rewarding about that. So number 4 is meat. And the 5th and final reason I think you should consider having chickens is they contribute to your home, your property, in both terms of fun and of discipline. With fun, they're just funny. Chickens are just a funny animal to watch. And they've kind of brought about a certain level of enjoyment to our property, to our home, to my family. But the other thing is discipline. And I say that in terms of our children take care of the chickens, among other animals that we have, like goats and dogs and stuff. But they take care of the chickens. And there's a discipline that is ingrained in children when you are caring for other animals, when you got to feed and water and collect the eggs and all of that. And even when I've had to process a chicken, my boys will watch or help and kind of observe what's going on with that. So it's a true, farm to fork idea. So the chickens really contribute to the overall, I think, well-being of the people that own the chickens, again, in terms of fun and of discipline. So those are 5 reasons I think you should consider having chickens, especially with the sky high prices of eggs, of meat, that this is something that you could have yourself and you would not be so reliant, so dependent upon what's happening outside of your property. Now you got to be careful, what you bring in, and you could spread bird flu to your own flock. So obviously you got to be careful about that as well. But to have on your own property a resource to provide food for your family should be a wonderful thing. Well, guys, hope this has been helpful for you today. And if you've not already done so, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate you and your support for us. We'll see you on the next video.